I, I usually let my work speak for me.
Just true.
You don't see pictures of me online or anything like that. But I think this is fun. I think this show is a very good idea.
Hello and welcome to Skylines Talk, the new chat show for City Skylines, where we'll go behind the Sims and meet some of the brightest, most creative minds in the City Skylines community. Find out what makes them tick and maybe even learn a tip or two. Who am I? I'm Bon Bon B, and you are very, very welcome.
Come here now, girl.
On today's show, we meet a true legend of the game. If you've never heard of him, then you've literally never visited the workshop. I'd like to offer a warm welcome to MrMaison.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Bon Bon. Thank you for having me.
As always, I always start by asking if you'd like to be referred to as MrMaison, or if not, do you have another name that you prefer?
Mr. Mason is fine.
Lovely. I can see the irony as to someone best known for making trees to be called Mr. House. But where did that name actually come from?
Well, that name is actually a accident because I really meant to use the word mason like in masonry because I think of building and brickwork and stuff like that. So when I joined Simtropolis, that was the name I picked, but I spelt it the way I have it now with the AI. And Addis, the one who makes the YouTube videos, he informed me that my name means house. And it was French name. And I was like, wow, but it actually fits because, when I think of Mason house, I think of the earth and I think of the earth is a house.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of all of the trees in the house, you know? So I think it still fits. It's still relevant to building, a house is a...
Well, I would imagine, without doing any research, I would imagine that masonry must have come from the French maison.
It could be. Maybe it's not an accident. Oh, yeah, there you go.
So anyway, what's your background story? Where you're from, what do you do for a living, and what else do you do when you're not growing digital saplings?
Well, I was born in London, raised in Brooklyn. My family is Jamaican. Yeah, I'm married. I have a lovely wife. Unfortunately, later in life, she came down with a form of MS. Was a life-changing experience for her. So I'm kind of a caretaker with her, at the same time, as I'm being creative, she still has a smile that lights up the room. So she's a fighter. So, I'm happy about that.
That is good to know. Good to know. It's a very difficult illness, MS.
Yeah, it's a terrible thing, It's like 1 minute you're walking around, the next minute you're paralyzed on one side of your body, fight through it, hopefully,
Yeah.
So good thing she's a fighter, she's on her feet,
No,
but, she's hanging in there.
Good for her. Well, she's got you, and that's key.
We got each other.
Yeah.
I'm a visual artist. I started off in my early days watching a lot of Bob Ross and all of the happy trees.
Now, that means nothing to me from the UK, but I'm sure a lot of people will be with you so far. Carry on.
He's the one with the afro and the paintbrush. And, he'll do a painting in a half an hour. So I was fascinated by that. And, I started painting actually in the 6th grade when I learned I can make clouds with a sponge. I grew up painting. I started getting into clothes, and eventually I started getting into walls and doing wall finishes and wall murals. And then, that's basically what I've been doing for a very long time.
All right. Well, like I say, it really does show in your work that you're an artist. There's no question. And so on to gaming. What got you into City Skylines?
Well, I started with SimCity 2000 and then 3000, and then I really got heavy into it with SimCity 4. Been in that community for a long time, and I've been through all of the ups and downs with the community where you had these companies coming to seduce us with these crappy city builders and thinking we want online only, and
Yeah.
and You know, did they think I want to share a world with someone who's gonna pass their garbage over to my city? No, you know. So, you know, when City Skylines came out, it was a breath of fresh air. You know, uh, it's like they got it. You know, they knew what a city builder wanted. They knew we wanted single player, and we got some extras that we've been longing for in SimCity 4, like having water on any level of terrain, bendy roads, like Corrales would say. For me, in SimCity 4, what always kept me from modding is I couldn't get used to Gmax, which was the program used to make bats and stuff.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's a lot of talented, you know, other creators who use it and do real good. And I was actually in the middle of making a transit hub for the first time. I said, you know what, I got to make something for SimCity. Started making a transit hub, and then that same month, City Skylines came out, and I found out we can use any program, any 3D program that can export in FBX or OBJ or Collada, and that was it. You know, the sky was open, and I just took off from there, and you know, I started experimenting and seeing how easy it was to make stuff for the game. And if you notice, in the first month, we had like a million things on the workshop already. You know,
Yeah.
that's what got me hard, really focused in City Skylines. It's like I haven't played SimCity 4 in a long time. Still love the game. I still think it's a classic. You know, I think it's still great. But you know, City Skylines got me right now.
What's the first spark of inspiration in how you decide your next project? Do you create from your own city needs, or the demand of others, or is it something else completely?
I don't. It's more like a big bang with me. It's like, yeah, it's like it started a long time ago, and actually, it depends on the mood at the time. It's a mixture of that and also requests. There are some people that request things, and I look it up, and I'm like, wow, that's nice, and I say, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And I know how it is to want something for a game, and you know, if you can't necessarily make it yourself, it would be nice if someone actually did it. You know, so every now and then, yeah, I like to fill that void. You know.
So, once you've decided what you're going to make, how do you even start? What software do you use, and what's the process?
Well, first I do some research. Like, for example, if I'm going to make a certain tree, I check the Wikipedia, I do some research, you know, look at some images, check out the environment where it grows naturally, and, you know, look at certain situations where the tree would be used in a garden or on a street or even just out in the bush.
Uh-huh.
And I take it from there. I start gathering images, and then I start working on a texture map. And once I have a basic texture map done, which is I have the bark and I have the leaves done, you know, in Photoshop, and I start modeling. Sometimes I start with Xfrog just to make the branches and twigs, but mostly I work out a blender for trees.
Uh-huh.
I like to do it from scratch because I have more control. I can make the branches bend the way I want them to. I can kind of give the trunk a little character, you know, curve it here and there, and, you know, basically give the tree the character that I'm looking for. The hard part is keeping the try count low, because trees really, on average, the average tree in the CG world is tens of thousands of polygons. That's not even talking about tries. You know, the average tree you would see in a architect visualization piece is in the tens of thousands to millions of polygons. So it's a real challenge to get a realistic looking tree under 2,000 tries, you know.
Yeah.
And that's you know, that's the big challenge. I mean, like the Norfolk Island pine, the original one, was over 4,000 tries, and I had to fight to get it down to where it is.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to optimize as much as I can, but I want to retain the realistic look of them, because one of my aims is to get the graphics of the game to be a little more realistic. Because when the game first launched, one of the big complaints was cartoonish look that everyone was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? It's all in the textures. If we make more realistic textures and make more realistic looking buildings, because on our creative end, we can make things the way we want them to be. And then over time, the game will be looking very different from launch day, just like how SimCity 4 looks today compared to 2003.
Well, I'm sure we all thank you for all of your botanical offerings, but I notice you've created some buildings and metro cars, a map, and even a LUT. Which of these are you most proud of, and why?
Oh, that's a hard question. Because they all have equal value to me, and they all have their own space. The truth is, everything I make is actually the beginning of a series. Like, for example, the cereal factory. I was supposed to continue that. I want to expand it and make some warehouses and even some trucks with, chirpy crisps on the side,
Yeah.
The theater, the Regal Theater is actually a part of a bunch of other theaters I started making, because I wanted to recreate the old 42nd Street in Manhattan, all the theaters in a row.
Yeah.
And put some Shaw Brothers Kung Fu flicks in there.
Yeah.
So that the theater district, I want to do that. And I love trains. I absolutely love trains. I've loved trains since childhood.
It shows.
So I'm continuing to develop new train stations, and I have more subways in mind. But the thing is, I get stuck in the trees a lot because nature. But the thing about the trees, though, is like if you make a train station or a building, they can only go in a certain place in the city, or they would be within the city. But trees go everywhere, They're like clouds, They can go in the city, they'll be out in the bush, in the mountains, and you see them everywhere. And you see them in like every screenshot, and they add so much to the city. And more variety, the better, That's why I was glad when P. Delmo came along and God us with a bunch of more variety. Hopefully he'll come back.
Oh,
but,
God, yes. God, yes.
So, and also, the tree and on Steam, the trees were one of the less developed sections in the workshop. You notice it has one of the lowest counts of items in there. There's a few others that maybe have even lower, like the monuments, but and I also, aside from my nature, flowery side, I have my dark side. I love seeing graffiti. I love grit. I like seeing like the grit. I like seeing dirty walls and, like realistic stuff, It just brings more realism to the game.
Right, so forgetting the creations you've been co-credited on, do you have any idea how many individual subscriptions your personal workshop items have?
I have no idea.
Just over 2.5 million.
Wow.
It really is wow.
Wow.
That goes to show how much of a difference you have made to the game.
Wow, that makes me feel good. Makes me want to do more too.
Well, get on with it then. Don't let me stop you. No, don't get on with it. We've got a couple more questions. So let's imagine that the community all club together and agree to pay you to make one creation of your own choosing. What would you choose to make for us?
Could it be something that is impossible right now?
If you feel that you could have a go at it.
I would love to get to the skybox and create atmospheres.
Wow.
I would love to do that. TPB has been trying to get at it. Yeah, that would be great if we can make skies,
Wow. I mean, that is really blue sky thinking. Fantastic.
That is, that would be, it makes such a difference, the atmosphere, all kinds of different skies and clouds. In fact, I'm in the middle of making some cloud planes. And it's just for eye candy.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure some people have seen my experiment on Simtropolis. TPB already made the mod for it. It's already sitting there. He's probably wondering what's taking me so long. I would love for like the trees and the sky. You get those two going, and it just changes the look of everything.
Yeah.
Imagine having there's a rainstorm, you actually see a cumulonimbus sky,
Yeah.
and
Right, so anyway, finally, which of the other amazing creators out there have given you personally the most inspiration within the game?
well, I have to say Matt Crux, aka Shroom Blaze, he's the one that pushed me to publish my first tree.
Right.
Because I was showing him my 3D model,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just procrastinating because I was unsure if I should publish it. I was being very shy about it. And one day he messaged me and asked me, "Are you going to publish that?" I said, "You know what? I need to just publish it." And that was it. That's where I took off. So Shroom Blaze kind of pushed me in. He pushed me in the workshop. He also helped me get my texturing together, because it's a real fight getting good looking textures in this game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I guess with the availability of all these different LUTs and themes now, you can get it just right, and then somebody comes along and plonks down a LUT that it doesn't isn't compatible with.
Yeah, the game itself is very, very aggressive when it comes to saturation.
Hmm.
So whenever you make textures, you have to desaturate the crap out of it. And then do it again and do it some more, So yeah.
Well, thanks very much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I hope you have a very good evening.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully we'll do this again. Maybe we can have a group thing.
That would be amazing. I definitely look forward to that.